19 years ago this week, something happened that changed the world forever. The world heard these words for the very first time.
I don't like sand.
You want to buy some death sticks?
Yep. 200,000 units already, with 1 million more well on the way.
Possibly.
This party's over.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
It's just so smiling to see you, sir!
I don't mind flying. What you're doing is suicide.
It's not fair.
Want a cup of joe with you?
How embarrassing. I hate them.
Their banking clan will sign your treaty.
Good job.
Ah man, Attack of the Clones. Growing up at the time, I thought this was the best Star Wars movie I'd ever seen. Although a lot of people at the time said it was the worst ever made.
I hate them.
Critics praised the increased action scenes, the CGI, but criticized plot points, character development, and most importantly, Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin.
Grown more beautiful, I mean. Well, for a senator, I mean.
But you know what? I never cared about any of that because Attack of the Clones is possibly the most important Star Wars film ever made. Why? Because it built so much of the Star Wars universe. Sure, it didn't have the best acting, the best story, the best character development, but since when has Star Wars had any of that? Star Wars is all about experiencing the most believable fictional galaxy possible. Wait, did I say fictional? They literally put these words at the start of each film. Somewhere a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, possibly in some alternate reality, alternate universe, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen were running around the galaxy lopping heads off battle droids. This stuff really happened. Today, I want to talk to you guys about why Attack of the Clones is such an important film. Just think about it. Without this, we would have never had Elan Sleaze-Bogano. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. So much of the Star Wars we know and love and are still experiencing to this day came out of this film. So much of the lore and the universe building. Sure, the Phantom Menace kicked off the prequel trilogy and started building all the politics, Anakin's origins, Coruscant, the Jedi Temple and Knights, and so much more. But the Attack of the Clones was even more important because of its contribution to Star Wars lore. Take a look at the Bad Batch. Almost everything in this show originally came from or started with Attack of the Clones. We've got Kamino, the Cloners, the Clone Army, the clones themselves, the reason the Clone Army was created, the clones' efficiency and effectiveness, and overall competency over stormtroopers, which is highlighted in the Bad Batch as the Empire begins to transition to conscripted soldiers in favor of clones. Basically, apart from the mention of the Clone Wars in A New Hope,
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yes. I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father, before the dark times.
everything we know about the clones started right here in 2002. We get to see the clones in action for the first time, their armor and their weaponry, their LAAT gunships, the Republic cruisers looming overhead. Everything that inspired Star Wars The Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, started right here. Every experience you've had playing Battlefront 2 Clone Wars, the Force Unleashed game, the old Battlefront games, a plentiful supply of death sticks, it all came out of this film, even if it was, in so many people's eyes, the worst Star Wars film ever made. I mean, I'm not sure we ever thought it could get worse. And then we got the sequels. Ugh. Another great thing about this film was so much of the Star Wars politics, with the Jedi Order, the Senate, democracy, and the fall of the Republic. We see how the galaxy functions and works, how planet to planet civilization in this world a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away existed. The real nitty-gritty of that side of Star Wars, again, all in this film. The fact the Sith are secretly in control of the Senate and eventually overthrow the Republic. We learn that in here. Dooku tells Obi-Wan the Sith are in control of the Senate and there's nothing he can do about it.
What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?
We learn Dooku is the former master of Qui-Gon. Jar Jar Binks, of all characters, gives emergency power to the Supreme Chancellor, Palpatine, which of course eventually leads to Palpatine declaring Order 66 and the war against the Jedi in the next film. We get Anakin and Padme discussing democracy and dictatorships, and everything in this film is a precursor to everything that happens over the next 30 years in the Star Wars timeline. Okay, so right near the start, we're introduced to Jango Fett.
Possibly.
And later, we learn about the origins of Boba, one of the most mysterious characters still to this day. We learn about Mandalorians for the first time. We see where they're at. We also see the early stages of Obi-Wan as a teacher, as an instructor.
Oh,
How could this Obi-Wan get to this in A New Hope? We get Dex's diner, possibly one of the most random scenes in all of Star Wars. Obi-Wan has this random alien friend who now runs a diner but had a past life as some dude, I don't know. This is such a Star Wars thing and makes this world feel so believable. Of course Obi-Wan has a friend like this. And then we see the Jedi library for the first time and more of the inner temple. So again, we're learning more about the Jedi Order and how it all works. It's like being taken behind the scenes of this mythology created 25 years earlier with A New Hope and seeing the inner workings. Up until this point, all we knew of the Jedi Knights were what Obi-Wan described to us back in his little hut on Tatooine in A New Hope.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic.
And sure, we got a bit of this in Phantom Menace, but this is the first film in which we actually see them in action. Apart from, you know, when they face Maul and stuff, this is much larger scale though. And then, for the first time, we see the younglings. We see more of how the Jedi Order operates, how a Jedi begins their training, taught by Master Yoda, taught from such a young age. All the little kiddies with the helmets and the lightsabers, and then this little guy who schools Obi-Wan. Master, it must be because the archive have been erased. Alright, so Obi-Wan jumps in his starfighter and heads to Kamino, and we basically learn about the origins of the Empire, where the Republic got their army. Obi-Wan has extreme visible confusion and puts on some great acting to fool the Kaminoans into thinking he actually knows what they're talking about. Oh, you've made a clone army with 1 million more units well on the way. Dude, like what the actual, that's messed up. But Obi-Wan's just playing it cool. He's pretty chill. He's like, oh, okay, big army, I gotcha, okay. Oh, and meanwhile on Naboo, Anakin's trying to get Padme to fall in love with him even though he's a whiny little twat.
I don't like sand.
Literally after saying this, they start making out. Like, come on, Padme, what's going through your head here? Then we get clone army, test tubes, loads of mini Boba Fett's. I love how Obi-Wan's here having to deal with all this, realizing there's a giant army and some really, you know, dark, messed up stuff going on. Meanwhile, Anakin's rolling around in the goddamn grass with Padme. Ugh, I always used to skip these scenes. Movie's like an hour 10 if you skip all this. Just cut it down. Director's cut. Andrew's cut. That's the version I used to always watch. Okay, Obi-Wan then meets the 2 most legendary bounty hunters in the galaxy. Meanwhile, Anakin cuts a pear using the Force. Come on, George, like, really? Then Obi-Wan exits the cloning facility and makes a call back to Yoda and Windu on Coruscant in what is possibly one of the most awkward Star Wars scenes I've ever seen. I was just watching this back the other day. I swear every time I watch this movie, it gets funnier and funnier. I know it was never intended as a comedy, but man, literally right next to his ship, but instead Obi-Wan decides to stand in the pouring rain, shouting all the way back to Coruscant. Ewan's acting in this scene is so awkward.
No, Master, there appears to be no motive.
Dude, just get in the ship for a couple minutes. Why are you in the rain shouting? Alright, so Obi-Wan fights Jango, and for the first time we see the Mandalorian's full range of weaponry. We get flamethrower, jetpack, cable tie, blasters, Slave One in action, and then the greatest sound effect ever created in any film ever. Next is possibly my favorite scene in all of Star Wars ever because of its randomness. Dooku addresses the CIS. You got the Techno Union dude. The Techno Union Army is at your disposal. Why is this a thing? The banking clan will sign your treaty. Good, very good. Like, who even are these characters? Alright, so Anakin shows us the first signs of becoming Darth Vader and slaughters an entire camp of Tusken Raiders, and not just the men.
But the women and the children too.
And then he buries his mother, and a lot of people argue this was one of the main driving forces in his turn to the dark side. This was more traumatic than anything that ever happened in Revenge of the Sith. Interesting thought. And the last quarter of the film is set on one of the most iconic prequel locations, Geonosis, a desert planet vastly different to Tatooine, the main location of the CIS's droid factories, covered in catacombs, and inhabited by giant bugs. And it's on Geonosis that we get to experience so much of the Star Wars fans had been dreaming about for years. Star Wars was obviously still huge in 2002, but nowhere as big as it is today, and it's this scene, what happens for the next part of the film, for the rest of the film, that created so much of the Star Wars we still engage with on a daily basis. So much of the fandom came out of this next quarter of the film. First of all, we get the droid armies. We see them in action on a large scale. Sure, we saw that in Phantom Menace, but this takes it a step further. We see the super battle droids, we see the droidicas, and for the first time, we see the Jedi Knights all in action. This is what Obi-Wan was talking about, the Guardians of Peace and Justice in the galaxy. We see lightsabers, force powers, and all-out war. They've come to save Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. They're all here. Mace Windu, purple lightsaber for some random reason. This party's over. The most epic Star Wars Jedi action we'd ever had up until this point. But the Jedi are outnumbered. The CIS droids surround the Jedi, and the Jedi are about to be executed. And then the moment that spawned the Clone Wars and everything to come over the next 19 years, the clones arrive heroically with Master Yoda, the most clunky dialogue he's ever spoken. Around the Jedi, a perimeter create, something like that. Gunships with mounted cannons, foot soldiers, commanders, missiles, capital ships overhead. Begun, the Clone Wars have. The next 10 to 20 minutes of the film shows us everything we know and love about the Clone Wars. And then we see Anakin and Obi-Wan face off against the Sith Lord, Count Dooku. Anakin goes down, gets zapped by the lightning. Obi-Wan goes down, gets sliced a couple times. Anakin gets back up, puts up a fight, and then loses his arm. Another hint at his transformation into becoming more machine than man. And then the moment everyone's been waiting for, the final payoff of the film, even though it's so brief and short, Yoda, lightsaber, flips 900-year-old Jedi in action. To think this is the same dude that schooled Luke way back on Dagobah. This film did so much for Star Wars, and it built the galaxy we know and love. Watching this back again 19 years later is a hilarious experience, and man, this movie was my childhood. But I'd love to know what some of your favorite moments from this film are, and what you think it brings to Star Wars. What's unique about this film, and why do you think it was so influential? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this, please let me know. And for more on Star Wars, you can watch one of these videos here, and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord for lots more Star Wars gaming news, updates, everything you want. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew, and I hate sand.
Stay bombastic.